the thing I would always, and I always encourage you, regardless of any stage of business that you're at or how long you've been doing it, is to always outsource the things that you're not good at, right? So I'm putting something in the chat here as an example. And many of you could use interns, say from a local university, right? And it's relatively easy to get interns, and you can use paid interns or you can use unpaid interns. It's up to you, whatever you'd like to do. The one challenge with using interns is that you have to be very, very clear on what it is that you need from them. Um, and sometimes they can almost be more work than you'd like.
Mhm.
But there's a very strong trend that's having a lot of effect right now, Gil, of what's called virtual assistants, right? And you could take something like that, the marketing Mad Libs document that we went over a few weeks ago. If you had that filled out on who your ideal client base was and hand it to a virtual assistant that specializes, say, as an example, in social media or another type of marketing outreach that you'd like to do, and probably within a matter of days, that you would have your schedule filled up because they're really good at what they do, right? And they know how to go out and find those people. And you've done your work already by showing them an example of the type of customer that you want to be working with. And they would, in my opinion, would likely more than pay for themselves in a very, very short period of time.
And where do you
As
find
you,
these people? Is this, yeah,
So I just put in the chat link an organization. There's lots of organizations that do this, but this is just one that I happen to work with. It's called My VA Rocks.
okay, I see
So
that.
like my virtual assistant rocks. And they source talent. Most of the talent's all in the United States. So you don't have to be worried about, time zone changes and different things like that. They're mostly all in the United States, and every area of specialization you can think of. So marketing, accounting, finance, it can be technical, right? If you, not that most of you are probably doing this, but if you needed help building your website or running something from the back end, you can do this. And it's a great way for you to source talent into your organization without having the burden of having full-time employees, right? So there's a lot of burden to businesses for having employees, to make sure that the employees are well taken care of, and salaries are right and those kinds of things. And for many of you, you don't need a full-time staff member to be doing the type of work that you need. And so a virtual assistant works very, very well in these scenarios. They're what we call 1099 employees. So basically you can say, I need you for 2 hours a week, or 2 hours a month, up to 20, 30, 40 or more hours in a given time frame. And they just basically are independent contractors that work for you and do the work that you need. They'll help. There's virtual assistants that can help you with your billing, right? As an example, and Gil, I know firsthand what it's like to have the burden of running a private practice, as an example, right? You have an area of specialization. You like focusing on the work that you do with the client, and then after a long, hard day of doing that, you have to go sit in front of the computer and try to figure out your books. And balance everything out. And there's people that can help you do that. So I would just encourage you to do that. You can see in the situation on that particular site. Again, it's just one of many. So you don't have to be, I'm not loyal to that particular service. You can price shop and those kinds of things. But you'll find that virtual assistants can be very cost effective for you. You probably start at somewhere like in the $20 to $30 range to get to do some marketing stuff. And again, they probably wouldn't have to spend more than 10 hours doing what you ask them to do, and you would have more business than you know what to do with.
Well, that's good.
Yep.
Thank you for that. In regards to the interns, is there like an office like I'm right near the University here of Colorado, and
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
there?
so each university will have a link on their website. You kind of have to dig for them a little bit, but they call them job boards, different things like that. And the thing with the interns, and this is what I always encourage, especially people in the therapy field or health and wellness field, is don't limit yourself to, say, psychology undergrad students, right? Because that's not necessarily the type of help you need. You can go to the business school and ask for marketing students, right? And the marketing students is a good example because they are required to have internship hours in order to graduate in most cases.
Mhm.
So they're looking for real world experience.
Got it.
And so what happens when you go to those sites, Gil, is you post a job, and it kind of walks you through the process of how to post the job. But post the job, and there's typically a little radial button that you click that says, is this paid or an unpaid opportunity? You can click unpaid if that's what you want to offer, and it will not deter students necessarily from applying or seeking out the job opportunity, because they need those hours, right? They need a certain number of hours completed working in a real world scenario in order to graduate. And from your side of things, the only thing you're really required to do besides coaching and guiding the intern is to fill out, it's typically like a single page document. It might sometimes be 2 pages that said, hey, did this person show up? Did they commit the number of hours that they said that they were going to? And do you have any written feedback that you'd like to provide to their professor that says, did they do a good job or not? It's not a ton of burden on you, but I just will warn you that you have to be very, very clear with the interns as far as what you want them to accomplish. They're brilliant, right? In many cases. And speaking of tech, as an example, Gil, something that would take you and I, say, 20 minutes to complete, doing a social media post, you could find an intern that says, I can do 200 of those posts in 20 minutes.
That's
Right?
what I want.
So, yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah, so they're really good at that kind of stuff, but you just have to be very clear with them, because if you're expecting them to approach what I call pride of ownership, right? If you expect them to approach your business with the same level of pride of ownership that you have, you're going to be sadly disappointed, right? Because they're new, they haven't been involved in the organization long enough that it takes them 2 to 3 weeks to really fully understand what it is that you're probably doing in the first place. But tactical things like doing social media posts, they can be very good at, but you have to be really clear with them.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Let's see, Sarah.
Michael,
Yeah. Do you have
I
another
just said
question?
thank you, Michael.
Okay, yeah, sure, my pleasure. Sarah, let's see. You're interested in doing a for-profit and a nonprofit arm under your LLC, or do you need a corp for the org? You can do it all underneath the same group. So so technically a nonprofit is its own separate entity, because remember, we're going to get a separate taxpayer ID number for that, a TIN. So we talk about EIN numbers for for-profit businesses. Nonprofits carry a TIN number. And you want that TIN number for the nonprofit entity, because that's the magic little number that donors and sponsors like to have, because they get their tax credit for donating to that nonprofit entity. They would not get a tax credit for donating to your for-profit entity, or the example from earlier where Deborah has a sole proprietorship LLC that's using her existing social security number. They would not get that tax benefit for that. So you want that TIN number specifically for the nonprofit. And again, similar to the original question from Deborah about keeping those entities separate, I like that approach better, because typically when you have 2 arms like that, Sarah, what we're leveraging the nonprofit status to, in essence, kind of pay back to the for-profit arm consulting for whatever services are being offered through the nonprofit. So I think Marie is right, doing the equine business as an example, and there's a really good opportunity there to create a nonprofit arm, raise a bunch of money from donors and different grants opportunities to provide the types of services being offered from Marie's for-profit arm. And give me 1 second, Sarah, and I'll unmute you. And for the for-profit arm to provide the services, right? So Sarah, I just unmuted you.
Got it.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, no, that makes sense. And
Okay,
thank you
so
for that.
Yeah, just to kind of finish that thought. So I think it's important for you to keep them separate, and it's very, very common. In fact, this week alone, I coached 3 businesses on how to set up both arms, right? And they're in a variety of different fields, but you can go out and raise, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars through a nonprofit arm, and then provide a service to say a population, right? Many of you will provide services, and if you're not taking billing, if you're not taking insurance through your billing, you might provide like a sliding scale, right, for cash paying clients. So kind of pay what you can, or pay, based on a salary range or something like that. But you can offer a scholarship now through your for-profit arm to provide those services, and your for-profit arm can then request repayment from the nonprofit arm in the form of a scholarship, so that the for-profit arm is getting paid full fee service for providing that service. So it's a really effective way for you to make sure that you're keeping money in the bank, because it's really difficult running a private practice type entity. And this is a good way for you to kind of maximize the potential for your revenue streams. So I hope that helps, Sarah.
No, it does, because I want to have the whole property under a nonprofit,
Yeah,
because then I get the tax advantages, for the whole entire land.
yeah,
Then, as a ordained minister, that's a whole other situation
yeah.
that comes into play, especially down in the South,
Hmm.
where there are certain rules. Like, I can't have an RV that's not skirted to make it look like an actual house and have somebody live in it, unless I am a pastor and those people work for the church. So like, my son comes and he decides to stay for a while, he can live in the mobile trailer, but then he's under the umbrella of working for the church.
Yeah.
Okay, no
So,
problem.
yeah, those are great examples of that. And this was, remind me again, was this in South Carolina?
North
Uh,
Carolina.
North Carolina.
Yeah.
So in North Carolina, right? So this is a good example, and there's a ton of advantage, right, to moving the property into the nonprofit status. The only thing I would chat with you about is think about the long-term objective and the value of that property, right? Because remember, you can sell the property as a nonprofit, say as an example, but you can't ever, you can't transfer those assets into a for-profit business down the road, typically,
Okay.
right? So just be thinking about it from that standpoint. And
Okay.
I think, based on, probably it sounds like the research you've already done and the tax advantages and some of the things that you want to do on the property, it sounds like the nonprofit owning the property is a good way to go. Um, and you can sell it outright directly. Churches, as an example, do that all the time, right? They've owned the property for 100 years, and now the congregation's gotten so small. What are they going to do? They sell the property and they kind of move into a smaller space somewhere else. That's very doable. So yeah, that would just be the only thing I would just encourage you to think about a little bit, is the long-term objective for the property.
I think I'll die on this property by the time I
Okay.
do everything I'm going to do to it. This will be my final place. Hell, I might be buried on it.
Fair
But
enough. Well, as we learned recently, apparently you can get a tax credit for that too. It sounds
yeah,
like, so.
exactly. As a doula, I'm well of that whole death end. But
Yeah.
I got turned on over this last week into glamping, and putting some glamping structures on the property, and not only extending the business out to military and those with disabilities and traumatic brain injury, but also do like family retreats. I have 0.32 acres of the 2 acres of property that's woods. So thinking of building like some little ropes courses and things in the woods for family bonding or small business retreats, doing activities for, group,
Yeah.
I can't think of the word, but, that
Yeah.
whole team building.
Team
That's one
building. Yeah. Yeah.
activity. So, making this a whole wellness retreat for, some kids never get out the city, even though they damn near live in the country,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be able to come out and, play with some little animals and whatnot.
So here's another. So Marie posted a really interesting comment in the chat for you to think about, again, from a long-term perspective. So if you have this structured as a nonprofit, typically you would have a board, right? And the board, in theory, could potentially vote you out of your own organization as a nonprofit, right? Which obviously puts the property at risk. So you could, again, to continue to get the nonprofit benefits, create a nonprofit that specifically holds the land, right? And that's very, very common in the for-profit world too, right? So you see large for-profit entities that create a real estate holding arm of their business. And that's the arm that's specifically focused on owning the real estate. And then you have the business arm that's focused on the operational portion of it. And so the nonprofit in your example that's providing the glamping and the team building rope courses and those kinds of things could be the operational arm. And you can have a real estate holding arm, and you can still have it in the form of a nonprofit that protects you from a board that's not happy with, how things are operating. If that makes sense. It's
No,
it's
but
uncommon,
I'll
but it does
circle back.
happen. Yeah, yeah. It's
And
uncommon.
then for Gil's question about learning stuff, I
Mhm.
found that, like, what is it, Udemy,
Yeah,
that has all those courses, and I think it's like $29 a month, and you can take unlimited courses on there. And if you
mhm,
don't find that the course was beneficial, they have a money back guarantee
yeah,
on there. So I know, like, I had looked into how to set up a profitable Instagram.
yeah,
There's like an 8-hour course on Instagram
yeah.
building,
There's a
different
lot of
businesses.
information out there. I typed Udemy in the chat if anybody's interested in looking into them. They charge a small fee for that, but you can, as an example too, through platforms like Coursera, you can basically attend, major university college courses for free through Coursera programs. So they're kind of self-paced and self-studied. You don't necessarily get your papers graded, that kind of stuff. They have a paid option where you can actually get feedback from the professors and actually perform the work that's in the courses themselves. Or you can just kind of, what we used to call audit classes, right? Where you go in and kind of observe it, but you can learn through those channels as well. Um, you know, so there's a lot of good options there in that space. And plus in your local communities, and Gil, I know you said you're up in Boulder as an example. Um, there's a ton of, business courses and entrepreneurship programs and things like that that are offered through the local communities up there, because Boulder and Denver in particular are very, very big on supporting entrepreneurs. And there's a ton of free programming. For those of you who are interested and are, within a reasonable driving distance to Denver, the third week of September 19th through the 23rd, is Denver Startup Week. So Denver Startup Week is the largest free entrepreneurial event of its kind in the country. There'll be close to 30,000 people that kind of descend onto downtown Denver for a week of free entrepreneurship training, coaching, mentorship, networking. And it happens every year. And this year, obviously, it's going to be back in person. So the energy level is pretty high with that. But there's about 400 sessions that you can attend for free. It's 100% free. I'm going to type the link in the chat. But it's a really cool place to go, especially for early stage entrepreneurs, because there's so much information that you can gather from there, and you can pick and choose what you want to do. Tons of networking events. It's free to register, and then you can kind of build your schedule out via the website there, and all those topics that you mentioned, like how to do a robust digital marketing plan, or social media, or accounting or raising capital, whatever, any topic you can think of from, you know, your business perspective, there's a session for that, and probably 10 more. So good. Okay, let me see here. Let's see. Ashanti, do you want to? Are you interested in sharing with us a little bit more about your business? I'll allow you to talk if you want to chat with us.
Hi, thanks.
Hi.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm fully employed right now, but I'm a certified yoga teacher and have been listening in as I'd like to make the transition and start my own business that's focused on wellness. I haven't really articulated my business plan yet, but I think it'll be a combination of yoga practice, mindfulness practice, developing like guided meditation scripts. And then I also develop like wellness products. So I do have like social media presence and a website, and I've participated in some community fairs where I've been able to do some informal like market analysis in terms of you know, gauging what folks are interested in. But right now, just like information gathering to chart out my course for next steps so I can just transition into just the
Cool.
entrepreneurship space. So yeah, so
So,
that's where I'm at.
Ashanti, are you envisioning that this is something you're going to do in like a physical space, and people will come to you for all the different offerings that you're doing? Are you envisioning doing it, you know, in a variety of places or at people's locations? What's the physical space that you're anticipating doing this in?
Eventually I'd like to have a brick and mortar boutique and space for practice. Right now, my focus has been just launching virtually and just providing services, courses virtually, and I've even tossed around the idea of developing like some e-publications, ebooks, and then like recorded material for folks to purchase that way. But yeah, I'd like to transition into a brick and mortar space.
Very cool. Where are you located at now?
I'm in Arapahoe County, little
Okay.
community called Sheridan, if you're familiar with
Yeah.
it. Just right outside of Inglewood. Yeah.
Okay, cool. If you want to make a visit to Denver, there's a physical space it's called Nurture Denver.
Okay.
And it's kind of all those things you talked about in one building. So it's pretty cool. They have a cafe, they have some retail, and then upstairs they have about 70 different practitioners doing everything health and wellness related. So they call it a well care marketplace. And you have everything in there from full-blown doctors to chakra readers and everything in between, doing different things. But it's, you know, and it's an interesting concept. It's potentially a space where a lot of you know, it doesn't have to be that specific location, but there's more and more of these types of things starting to be created. So think of it as like almost like co-working, but specifically for health and wellness related businesses. And it's an interesting approach because there's a strong referral base back and forth amongst the practitioners that are in the space, right? So it's like you came in for you know, these symptoms, and through that process I got some treatment from you know, somebody that I sought out, but then that person also referred me to, you know, the nutritionist down the hall or something like that. So it's an interesting way to build practice, but it's also a fantastic way for patients or clients to come in and get a ton of services under one roof. I put a link to that location in the chat if you're interested in it, Shanti.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And then I love this, that Sarah asked you a little bit of a challenging question. So who's going to be your client base?
question for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't fleshed out that part of my plan yet. Ideally, it would be everyone, but of course, I need to narrow it down. I'm a person of color myself, so I'd like to do some promotion and outreach to underserved communities that may not have the financial resources or just access to this type of just wellness product and services. So I would say it's all ages. My background is in education and public health, so I'm really passionate about promoting wellness for the youngsters so they can develop those skills early on. But certainly all ages would be welcome. So that's a really great question, and I need to spend some more time just honing in on that because I know it can't be everyone.
Yeah, good. Shante, were you part of the discussion when we covered the Mad Libs exercise?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
I haven't done that yet, but I will.
Okay. Good. That's a good tool that'll help you kind of narrow that down. So thanks, Sarah, for that question. That's always good.
Thank you.
To probe each other. So yeah, thanks for sharing, Shante. Let's see, Meredith, you want to share? I'm gonna allow you to chat if you want to talk to us.
Hi, everyone. I have to take a client in a few minutes, so I'm going to be a little quick, but thanks for the space. I'm still in kind of the formulation space, as I know everyone kind of has expressed too. So I wear a couple of different hats inside of my business. I am a licensed professional counselor. I am a yoga therapist and also a yoga teacher. So they have some overlap, and then they also have some very clear both legal and ethical distinctions between them. So the way that I'm kind of conceptualizing my business right now is that I kind of have those three distinct streams. I guess it's almost more like two distinct streams between yoga and therapy. And then there is still a distinction between yoga therapy and yoga. I work in the counseling space predominantly with queer and trans folks, and also with parents of queer and trans kids or adolescents. It's kind of the particular area that I work in. But in regards to the yoga and yoga therapy space, I typically work around chronic pain, chronic illness, pain management, a lot of, there's my alarm to tell me to be ready to go. Yeah, a lot around like rehabbing different injuries and things. That's kind of where I tend to nerd out and focus on.
Okay.
So I've been doing a lot of listening the past few weeks, and I still feel a little bit just in kind of the processing and
yeah, it's a lot of information in a short period of time. Where are you located at, Meredith?
I'm in Denver.
Okay, we should connect. I do a lot of programming for the queer and trans community, so
amazing.
Let's connect. So I know you have to get going, but hopefully you took down my contact information, and I look forward to you reaching out to me and let's chat.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And
yeah, thanks for being here with us. Yep.
Take care, everybody.
Bye. Bye. All right. Any other questions? All right. Everybody's experts at this stage. That's perfect. Anybody want to share their story? You raise a little hand. Want to try your stab at it, Ashante? Perfect. Let me unmute you again. Actually, I think maybe you can unmute yourself still at this stage. Oh, maybe it wasn't Ashante. Was it Deborah that raised your hand?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was
great.
me. All right. So like I said, I really like this up and down story. So a little bit about my business. I'm a registered dietitian and wholeness coach. And my passion is translating medical evidence into strategies and action plans that help people who are sick of diets and don't want to have to train for a marathon to discover the joy of nourishing food and stress relieving workouts. I see that my best clients are probably going to be business people who gained weight or burned out or suffered joint problems as they focused on their work to the exclusion of their physical well-being. and I can help them lose belly fat, gain energy and confidence, and build daily rituals for wholesome meals, exercise, and stress relief. And some of my services include cooking instructions, digital courses, some of my potential services. Let me be more specific.
Okay.
My envision services, cooking videos, digital courses, and one-on-one coaching. And I lead and coach with kindness and affirmation and humility because I myself remember what it was like to ignore my body, burn out, and have to rebuild my health one step at a time. So
Great.
if you want me to go through a couple of these up and down stories,
Yeah,
conversation.
I'd love to, because you hit on some good things there. I think there's some opportunity for you to really highlight the status quo piece of it.
Okay.
You got
Yeah.
a lot of solutions there, right?
Yeah. So help me. Yeah. And for everyone, what you think is the most relevant or the most captivating would be good for me to know. So people typically come to me asking, what's the worst food to eat that I should give up? Or how many grams of carbs should I have? Or help me give up sugar, gluten, and meat. And so the status quo is a mindset geared toward depriving themselves and restricting themselves. And I teach them what to add to their lifestyle in their food. And we pick small goals, they repeat and become automatic habits. And I think you described it as the glorious picture of what could be. I see the glorious picture of what could be. And something I believe very passionately is that food is to enjoy and savor. And another up and down is that people see exercise as a punishment they have to do. And they may ask, how many steps do I have to get a day? Or, what kind of crunches do I have to do to tone my abs? And I just don't know, or just give up. I don't have time to work out. And the glorious picture of what could be is that moving your body is fun. It's play, and it reduces your depression or anxiety. It's calming. And it also is a huge boost to a clear mind and creativity. And so the third status quo is that, life is so crazy and so busy, but I'll take care of myself after I launch this business or reach this goal or get my kids, spouse, parents to this stage. And what I do is help you tap into your motivations about what's really most important in your life and connect with how wholeness and health will help you reach those goals.
That's great. Excellent. Good stuff. How did that feel to you to go through that process?
I loved it.
Mm.
I mean, I'd done the mission statement or description of my services and value proposition earlier, but the new thing I did is after that video last week, is the up and down. And it was pretty easy to do because it's conversations I've had with people and I've seen, but it was really great to contrast the status quo with what could be.
Yeah.
So that was really helpful to me.
Yeah, good. Well, I thought you did a great job there. If I was providing any critique, I think it would be just to tighten it up a little bit,
Okay.
with just be clearer in the approach. But I mean, you definitely applied the structure that we talked about last week to this. Everything was good. I like that you did a really nice job of, if we were in a sales environment, right, we'd call it the features and the benefits
Right.
type approach, right? So you're saying, here in the status quo piece, here's all the pain points that people typically, or the resistance that they have to making some of these behavioral changes. And you've really highlighted the benefits of what happens if they do make those changes. And I think you did that really, really well. So I would just try to, be a little bit tighter with like the words. And so as an example, when you talk about some of the reasons or some of the excuses why people say they can't do it, right? It's like, it's work, it's balancing family, it's, exercise feels like work, right? Like bam,
Okay.
bam, bam. And then, but here's how we get from, this being unpleasant to being an actual enjoyable experience.
All right. So when you say tighten up, you mean shorten the descriptions into
Yeah,
like
I just,
kind of
yeah,
buzzwords kind of things?
yeah. So normally when I'm coaching people, I tell you to kind of focus on your main point that you're trying to make, nail it with 3 keywords,
Okay.
right?
Okay, cool.
So
Okay.
keep it boxed in with those 3 words.
Okay.
Bam, 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 because as we know, right, that's what our brains can process, right? From a chunking
Right.
standpoint, it's like, if you
Okay.
tell me that like 1, 2, 3, I'm going to remember that.
Okay.
You start adding more words beyond that. I start to, what were the 3 words again that were in there? So just kind of keep it focused on those pieces. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Sarah really likes your last statement as well. So it was clear.
Which is the one, which last statement?
She says the last statement was the best. It told you the what and the why.
Oh, the why, the motivations.
Yeah.
The motivations of what is important to you. Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sarah. Appreciate that
Great.
feedback. All
Yeah.
right. I will mute myself back in case my dog starts barking.
Okay, fair. Anybody else want to go? Marie, you want to give it a shot? I'm going to allow you to talk if you want.
Hello.
Hi there.
Sure, I'll give it a shot.
Okay. Putting you on the spot.
Oh no, you're fine. I guess I have 2 clients, so to speak, which is mental health professionals and actual participants or clients or patients, however you want to label that. So which pitch would you like me to pitch?
Whichever one you want us to give you some feedback on.
Oh, that's a really good question, because I have been struggling with that too right now, because I'm having some shifts within my business happening as far as like growth and approaches and stuff like that,
So
which is a long conversation.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask you. So which one of those client bases is producing the most viable work for you?
Oh, they both are.
Okay.
I don't know.
When do you like working with
now I
the
am on the spot. Because obviously I want to drum up more business, right? And it's kind of set up on a referral basis as well. When I have clients, like let's say a mom and a teenage girl, right? And they approach and say, I want to have my daughter experience equine assisted therapy. What I do right now currently is I kind of talk to them a little bit, give them get a little information, and then I refer them out to therapists that I partner with. But it's shifting.
Okay.
It's shifting now, where I'm finding the therapists that that I like to partner with, so to speak.
Yeah.
They're not bringing in the clients as much anymore, if that makes sense. I don't know how to explain that. I'm getting more outreach than the therapists I partner with.
Meaning they're not referring patients back to you?
So, okay. Oh gosh, I don't want to make this too self-serving. So I am not a licensed mental health professional. I'm a certified individual. And so what I do, because I'm certified in the EGALA model, which stands for Equine Assisted Growth and Learning Association, part of the ethical standard of practice within that model, because we have a governing board, is that in every session there is a licensed mental health professional expert in their field, and then a equine specialist expert in their field. Together we co-facilitate every session. And so the original business model, was outreach to therapists and partner with them, which I still do. But I'm finding that there's a lot more coaching and a lot more mentoring and education backed by that. So there's a lot of no pay in work, which I don't mind, because I'm finding amazing individuals to partner with. But what I'm finding also now is that because of like my marketing, my own business, that I'm getting a lot of clients, not therapists, reaching out to me directly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Versus therapists saying, "Oh, I want to partner with you and provide that at my private practice as one of the things that we can offer is equine assisted therapy." Now it's shifting to more. I have more individuals coming to me versus therapists. I'm referring them out. So I kind of have a two pitch, and I kind of like where I'm going with the therapist that I have right now.
Okay.
I still need you know, I don't know how much I've shared about it, but I partner with therapists that have niches or specialties. And so there's just, I mean, most of my niches, so to speak, are covered, like, addictions, special IDD community, grief and loss. I have therapists for those. I'm still working, and I have a BIPOC therapist that focuses in the BIPOC community. Oh, are you frozen on my end? Is it me?
Nope, we can hear you. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I still like have a couple that I'm passionate about, like a women's group, like a expert in women's groups, and also LGBTQ plus A. So kind of working on finding therapists for that. But once I have that, like I kind of like want to shift to just the people and be able to refer out to the therapist that I have a good, solid standing referral with and rapport and just a partnership working with. And so it's shifting for me, if that makes sense, after
Sure.
that long spiel.
Okay. So let's focus on where you're shifting to.
So where I'm shifting to?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, so like in like the scenario, I'm speaking with a group of parents maybe, or
Sure.
like what are you thinking?
Yeah. Are you speaking to the group of parents hoping to get their teens into your programming?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because I do have a teen program.
Okay.
So have I already introduced myself in this scenario?
Yep.
Okay. So one of the main questions that we always get is why horses? Where traditional talk therapy leaves off, involving horses in the process empowers you to see your behaviors and how those behaviors impact you and others. Horses help you identify your feelings, and they have a special ability to help you work through your emotional and behavioral barriers without shame or stigma. Working with horses has the benefit of helping to illuminate your behaviors and emotions in a way that traditional talk therapy sometimes cannot. When facilitated by our professionals, working with the horses allows you to receive unbiased feedback into reasons why you respond the way you do. At Colorado Equine Specialists, we provide services to help meet the treatment goals of you and your family's needs. Colorado Equine Specialists are all equine professionals certified in the EGALA model. We provide professional, educated, and ethical equine specialists in the equine assisted therapy field. Being held to such a high standard sets the bar not only for you and your family, but also the mental health professionals we partner with, knowing that their clients, are receiving the best equine assisted therapy services possible.
Okay. Good. So how did that feel to you? I know you were kind of winging it there a little bit, but tell me how you feel about it.
I don't know. I mean, I've been saying that spiel for years.
Okay.
So, I don't know, like, it's weird because I do like, I find comfort in winging it. So I do enjoy like when I have specific populations that are in front of me to add my own little flavors into what they might connect with.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
And
mean,
you
it's
weren't
kind of
reading that
boring.
off of a script, right?
No, I've definitely, well, I mean, it's a script in my head
But you've
now.
been saying it enough times that you know it
Yes.
well enough. Yeah. Yeah. Good.
So, I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, so I think it was good. Sarah used the phrase that it missed the heart, right? Like you're missing a little bit of the emotional tug, which is actually kind of where I was going to go from the critique standpoint of it, is you need to linger a little bit on the problem with the current status quo, right? So as an example, you hinted at this, but you really went past it quite quickly, right? Traditional therapy methods aren't enough, right? They're not solving all the problem. And you could dive into that a little bit, right? Especially with teens as an example. I would imagine, I'm making this up a little bit, so maybe this is not true, but I feel pretty confident that I'm still in the right direction. Therapy is only as good as your commitment to therapy, right? And if you're a teen and you're resistant to going to therapy and your parents are forcing you to go to therapy, the therapy is not going to be effective, right? That's just one thing that's causing the barrier in therapy. So this method that you're offering provides a really different approach, right? A holistic approach to these different things, and you're adding some new fresh elements into that, right? And I think that's where I'm trying to get at with this a little bit of emotional tug, right? And so Sarah used the term heart, but I think that part's really important, right? Especially if I'm picturing you talking to a room full of mothers and daughters, as an example, you're trying to tell two stories in the same message, right? And the number one message you're trying to get across is not to mom, right? You're trying to convince the teenage daughter that they want to be there, because there's nothing more powerful than those two people leaving your session, leaving your speech, whatever, and the daughter saying to the mom, I want to do that. There's nothing more powerful than that, right? So you don't have to sell the mom. So if you can draw that teen in and make them really truly believe like what you're offering them is going to be way different than what they're have maybe experienced in the past or what they're resistant to now, you win both parties, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Again, traditionally, I focus my marketing towards like therapist to partner with.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned that talk therapy, like I definitely don't say that. I stray away from sharing that like traditional talk therapy doesn't work, because that's not necessarily true. It's a very biased statement. So I try to keep it neutrality for that purpose of not offending anyone.
Yeah.
But yes, like I really like what you had to say about it. Like, you don't have to convince the parents, you have to convince the teenager.
For sure in this scenario, right? Because otherwise, if you're convincing the parents and you haven't created buy-in from the teens, you're putting yourself in the same bucket of traditional means that have not worked for that teen in the past.
Being a mother of a teenager, that is very, very challenging,
right?
Because she changes her mind on a daily what she likes.
Right. But your mom could preach all day long. You know this, right? You could preach all day long to that teen on any topic, right? And so let's talk about the therapy aspect of it. I could preach all day long, like, oh, this is so cool. I read this brochure. This is great. This is going to be a really fun experience for you. Not interested, right? But if I just expose that teen to you, in this case, as an example, and you hook that teen, the teen's bought in, right? And I'm sure you've experienced this as a mother yourself, right? You can say something all day long to the teen, and then they just basically brush it off, ignore you. You don't know, right? And then your friend comes into the picture and says something that's very similar, and they're like, I know, right? Like all of a sudden they're like bought into your friend's comment as it's the first time they've ever heard that, and it's the greatest idea they've ever heard. So I know all about it. So
what's coming up for me right now as you share, I think about I think maybe for lack of better terms, am lazy on my critical thinking of how to approach, because I think, oh, I already have this awesome thing. It's horses, right? That's the attention grabber. And I've been maybe I need to get more critical thinking on the approaches and not just rely on the fact that, hey, I have horses. You
Yeah.
know, if I'm explaining that correctly.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, right? So I think you just need to understand, again, who your audience is, right? So we talked a little bit about this before too, especially with like nonprofits, right? Like nonprofits always think, when I say who's your ideal customer, they talk about who they're providing the programming for. But really, as a nonprofit, your audience is donors. And those are two very different stories to tell in that process, right? And so that I think is important for you to just kind of grasp that, for who your audience is, because you win teens' hearts, you can have as many clients as you can possibly handle.
Well, sorry.
I
Well, I was
just
just
want to
gonna
share
say,
something. So Sarah is making a comment like, why not call it something else?
so I do call the teen program something else, Sarah. It's called the Teen Girl Glow Up. And
Okay.
I guess the verbiage, which I am not versed in, I probably would have to read my script on that one, is a little bit different. But even the verbiage that I have from the Teen Girl Glow Up group, um, you know, it's more of a visual appeal of teens, you know, versus like it's still very formal in the conversation of convincing the parents, if that makes sense. So I don't have that. There's nothing like outside of like, you know, I don't know. It's challenging. Marketing is
Well,
so challenging,
it is
but
challenging,
I
but
do have specific color schemes and names for programs for each group, if
and I
that
like
makes
that.
sense.
And I like the phrase glow up, right? Especially for teen girls. What would be, and I think of it from the standpoint of saying, try to put yourself in the mindset of that teen girl, and she's chatting with her friends, and she has to leave her friends early because she has to go and see you. What does she call it? What would she like to call it in front of her friends, so her friends aren't judging her or being critical because she's going to therapy or some
Okay.
other stigmatized word, right? What would you
Yeah.
call it? That would be something I would try to draw from my customer base, right? Like, what's the language that they would like to use? You know, I'm going to glow up. I don't know, right? I don't know that that's the right term for what, you know, how you use that phrase, but just try to picture being in the mindset of that young girl and how she would like to convey that to her friends without being judged.
I like it.
So
Thank
cool.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me share too.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for letting me put you on the spot.
No, you're fine. You know, when we did the ad libs or mad libs or
Mhm.
whatever, you know, trying to like zone in on what is your client, like I feel like there's definitely multi layers because of the way I have it set up and the way I need to set it up. But most importantly, you know, it's, you know, I try to keep my services open and available and cost friendly so it can outreach to many different communities but in doing so I have to put many different hats on, which makes
Yeah.
it hard and build many different programs. And yeah, it's a lot. So I
Yeah. I mean,
appreciate.
since you're doing so much work with teen girls, I would revisit that Mad Libs tool and think about your marketing campaign focused specifically to them. You know,
Well,
they're
I
not
have
the,
like 5 different marketing campaigns for like 5 different groups right now.
yeah.
It's a
But if
lot.
you know, thinking about it from that teen girl perspective, if your stuff is popping up on their social media to enough times that they're like, this seems really cool, I'm going to go talk to my mom about this. You don't even have to make the sales pitch when the mom and the daughter show up, right?
I've
um
actually gotten 2 girls registered from my TikTok because they
yeah,
saw my stuff on TikTok. I'm like, "What?"
perfect example, right? And that to me, like, I mean, that's a really cheap avenue for you to pursue finding client base. Yeah. Deborah says,
Well,
since you have a
yeah.
teen daughter, you're in a good position to kind of figure out what teens want. Maybe from their
Yeah,
friend, maybe from your daughter's friends, not from your daughter directly.
I actually do reach out to her a lot with like sessions or just ideas like, what do you think of this? Is it
Yeah.
dumb? But I will be authentic in saying that it has mostly been, geared towards outreaching the parents and convincing the parents, that this is something to help their kid.
But the parents, right, the sales pitch is different, right? And it's much simpler, in my opinion, right? I mean, the mind of a teen is an incredible thing
Yeah,
to try to navigate, right? And the emotions of a teen is a crazy thing to navigate, right? So if you can navigate that, the closing the deal with the parents is easy, in my opinion, right?
that's
Parents,
true.
this is what it costs. These are the 3 outcomes. Right? That's it. That's really all you have to say to the parents, because they're like, okay, cool, because my kid wants to be here. And that's the number one battle they face on a regular basis. Right? It's like they're dragging their kid to some other thing that's not working for that particular kid. So
To answer Sarah's question, if that
yeah,
was a question for me, or I'm kind of seeing it's like rhetorical as I say, but it the marketing plan worked for a while and then it slowed down, right? And so maybe it's not just like, oh, marketing, you always have to keep on trend. Maybe it's too like, let's pull it out away from focus of marketing towards parents and convincing parents to the
right.
kids.
Well, and I think a lot of that, and thanks, Sarah, for asking that question, right? I mean, I think it's a matter of you having a little reflective moment here to really think about the population that you're working with or that you want to be working with. Like if your entire day was filled with working with teen girls, I mean, teens in general, but teen girls in this example, does that sound like a pretty good day for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, authentically, I love everybody that I work
Mhm.
with. I mean, again, I've 5 different programs. So, um, yeah, I like your virtual assistance recommendation.
I was just going to say, because that's a perfect example, right? Because you have
Yeah.
you already have some examples of how it works on TikTok. You could pay somebody less than $100 a week, and you would probably have more business than you know what to do, right?
That
And
would
then
be nice.
what this is the great thing about that model is that you don't have to do it forever, right? You work with like a VA as an example, or an intern, and say, I want you to do this for a month, for 3 months, right? Whatever you pick the time block, and then you're just going to be like, okay, stop already, right? Like we're already booked out like 2 months, right? And I don't want to be booked out farther than that because I don't want my clientele to have to wait that long, right? Whatever the case. I worked with therapists a lot, and I've helped them build literally wait lists that are like 4 months long. And that's a good thing from a business perspective, but it's not an awesome thing for your clientele that need your services, right?
Right.
So there's a balance there, but it's such a quick, in my opinion, easy turn for you to really gain some traction if that's an area that you want to focus on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't
mean you have to turn away from the other programming that you do, but when you look at it, when you step back for a minute and you say, okay, from a business standpoint, right? I mean, whether you're driven by money or not, we all need to have at least a certain amount of money to kind of keep, not have that be a stressor in our life, right? And so you step back from the business perspective and you hear that term all the time, like what's the low hanging fruit? Like what can we really go after quickly to really stabilize this business and really start to ramp up? And then we can get really personal and customized with everything, right? So that part I think is really fun to do, but be pretty easy in my opinion for you to go out and really fill your day with attracting these teen girls into the work that you're doing.
I think the biggest hurdle is the financial piece of it all, because it's expensive to go to these programs. And that's one of the reasons why I started the nonprofit last year, is to give access to underprivileged communities that can't afford it. I don't know. I don't know. You're giving me definitely a mouthful to chew on about, like,
Yeah.
maybe
But
it's not a financial thing. Maybe it's also an interest thing.
Sure. I mean, you have to enjoy the work that you do, right? I mean, and a lot of us we have to do things in a given day where it's like, okay, I really like working with this population, but I also service this population. It's not my most enjoyable part, but maybe it's just one element of what I have to do at this stage of my business. You can always work around that. But I mean, what I would say is spend your money on a virtual assistant to do your social media and attract this clientele, and then that time that has been freed up from you to manage your TikTok, as an example, go find some donor dollars for your nonprofit.
Yeah.
Use that time to go find some donor dollars. Make money, ultimately go with the long-term strategy of saying the cost of your services should never be an objection for any clientele that you want to work with.
And that's 100% agreeable on my end.
Right. So I don't know what you charge for, a session, but, I just make up a number, right? But if it's a let's call it $300 an hour. That's what
it's
the rate is.
150.
Okay.
Like,
but
I'm an open book. It's 150 a
that's
session.
fine. Okay. So, it's $150 an hour, say, as an example. That's the rate. It is the rate, right? So, but you're here in my office and we're having this conversation about you becoming a potential client, or your daughter becoming a potential client. It's $150 an hour. If you can't afford that, that's not an objection, right? There's no excuse. If you believe this is the right place for your daughter to be, there's an answer to that. And you don't have to lead with the fact that we have a scholarship program, right? Just make sure that there's 100% of that emotional buy-in. This is where this individual wants to be and where they need to be to get the most benefit from what you're offering. There's a financial solution somewhere, and that's where your nonprofit kicks in, right?
I've also, just anybody who's listening, other ideas, I've also partnered with nonprofits that are willing to currently, while I'm building mine, be able to pay for services. For example, Brought to Reality Clothing is a nonprofit that pays for experiential mental health services for kids. And so we've kind of developed a relationship where if we find a child that is not able to afford it, that they cover it. So that was another cool outlet that I found, of just outreaching to other nonprofits that are interested in supporting your cause.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good suggestion, Marie. Thanks for that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for letting me
of course
deep dive into that.
Good. All right. Sarah, you want to share anything? You still have the ability to unmute yourself if you'd like to. No, nothing to share. Fair enough.
No, I think people have heard enough about what I plan on doing.
That's fair enough. I was going to say, you shared quite a bit and we appreciate that. And I appreciate your questions to your fellow participants here.
There's just so much potential in this group, that sometimes I think we really just need to step outside of ourselves, that we get, this tunnel vision, and we need somebody else to say, rethink that, like I say, how's that working for you? Like, just plain and simple. It's the cut and dry of it. I'm going to hit you in the gut with it and make you think about it.
Good. Well, I think I saw in the chat that everybody was kind of sharing their contact information with each other. And so hopefully, again, you can all stay connected with each other and, again, connected with me. I'll hang out here for a little bit longer if anybody has any other questions. Otherwise, we'll let you, get on with your day. But I hope to hear from some of you, and I hope to hear how fantastic your practices are doing down the road. It's been a good several weeks for me. So thanks for being here, everybody.
I just want to thank you so much, Michael. I mean, like I said, I've been telling everybody about this amazing class that I've been taking because, sorry, I had a mouthful of popcorn. But I just to verbalize it versus the impersonal text on the message. Like, thank you so much. I signed up for this free class that I saw on counseling in Colorado, and I thought, okay, we'll just check it out. I'm sure it's just going to be very cut and dry in the big sales pitch, but I have just been so impressed and so grateful and thankful for you and your expertise. Like, I've already gotten some really great ideas and doing some changes for client retention and stuff like that I think are very innovative because nobody else is doing it. And 100% thanks to you. So I appreciate you so much and have been completely shocked that the value of this free class has been so well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that feedback. Thank you. Thank you, Ashante, for the comments as well. Great.
And thank you for the recordings and the links and all of that, because I'm not usually available, as you know, because I've missed so many classes in the middle of the day. So to be able to
it's
have
hard to
that
pick a
material
time
to
that
go
works
back.
great for everybody. So, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and you'll have access to those for quite some time. So feel free to go back and pull down any of that information. Again, I'm available to you anytime. So feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to help where I can.
I'm calling you.
Okay, I'll be ready for it. I'm going to come take your ropes course in
Absolutely. You get a free glamping stay, you and whoever
perfect.
you want to bring.
Perfect. Marie, you can download the recorded sessions if you'd like, and you can download any of the materials that are in the folder. So, but you'll have access to that drive forever. So you don't have to download it if you don't want to.
Many thanks. I'm not sure if maybe I'm unmuted. This is Ashante. Just wanted to express my gratitude outside of the chat. I've only been able to attend a few of the sessions, but they've been incredibly informative and a pleasant surprise. So dittoing comments from other participants, really appreciate you sharing your expertise. I've been looking for something like this as someone that hasn't fully jumped in to the entrepreneurship experience, but this was perfect. So many thanks, and look forward to connecting with you in the future.
That's great, Shante. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much. Gil, you have a question?
I've got about 1,000 questions, but as I always do, but I really appreciate your enthusiasm. How can anybody be as passionate as you are about tax forms and and that opened me up a little bit. Well, maybe there is something interesting there that I can get interested about and everything too. So you're very clear with it, and I just appreciate your enthusiasm and passion for it. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Gil. I appreciate that feedback. So it's funny you made that comment, that analogy to tax forms. When I used to hire professors at the university, I used to jokingly say my biggest challenge in this role is to hire accounting professors with a personality. So,
they actually have one, right? Well,
yeah. So, it's fun. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.